Hello and welcome back. Today's video is going to span probably a couple of days. I have about 200 pounds estimated of pears in a wagon behind me, and we are going to preserve or cook up all of the pears. Now I have an idea for the different things that we are going to be making out of pears. But before we can do anything, we need to wash and sanitize all of the pears. And I feel like pears is going to be a word that I say about a bajillion times in this video. So here is the wagon of pears. We picked all of these. They are the remainder of what was left from my neighbor's pear tree, and he let us have all of them. Now I am going to be working with these pears in batches. I am also going to be switching between 2 or 3 different cameras that have a different setup, I guess, basically. Now I have my sink completely cleaned out. What I'm going to do now is fill it about halfway with hot water, throw in some apple cider vinegar, and put all of the pears in batches in the sink. I'm going to let them soak for a few moments, and then I'm going to take a rag, wipe the entire area of the pear, and then put it on a towel beside the sink to dry off just a bit. And whenever that is done, I will meet you at the table and we will get to peeling and cutting as many pears as we are going to do today. It is now right around 6 o'clock in the evening. I started peeling and coring and doing the pears at about 11 o'clock this morning. I have cut my fingers up. Some nails are missing. My hands are incredibly sore. And the only thing that I got accomplished for today was I made a pot of pear sauce, which is the equivalent to applesauce. Oh boy, I got through only 33.8 pounds of pears. Now we went ahead and separated off and weighed out all of the pears. So in total, we harvested and will be going through 120 pounds of pears. And holy crap, is it a lot. Now, since peeling and coring and slicing 33.8 pounds of pears took me about 5 hours. It really did. I am estimating that this 15.8 pounds of pears will take me about half the time. So I am going to sit down at the table and peel and slice and core more pears. And I think what I'm actually going to do is at least fill up one dehydrator tray. One full dehydrator, which is like 10 trays of pear slices. We're gonna give some dehydrated pears a chance. It is now the next day, and I have a lot to do today. Last night I diced up a bunch of the pears and I put them in my large stock pot and I put them in the fridge overnight. I'm going to be making a pear pie filling that I will be canning later today. I also have a Instapot full of pear sauce that I will be canning up as well. and I'm going to be starting with that. But before I can fill my jars, I first need to wash and sanitize all of my jars, lids, and rings. I am going to be water bath canning, so I need to make sure everything is very clean and sanitized. Now I left the applesauce in the Instapot overnight on a warm setting, so it is still hot, so I can go ahead and get started ladling all of the pear sauce into the jars. Out of the full crock pot of pear sauce that I made, I was able to get 8.5 quarts out of it. Now I was expecting more, but it's a good start. We still have plenty of pears to get through, and I'm sure I'll be making more pear sauce. Now for the pear pie filling, I heated up all of the pears on the stove to an almost boiling point. I then drained off all of the water from the pears into a gallon-sized pitcher. I'm going to be using this what is now pear juice for the liquid portion of the pear pie filling. For my 15-ish pounds of diced pears that I am using for the pear pie filling, I wanted to use the least amount of sugar as I possibly could. So I ended up using 3 cups of white sugar and 3 cups of brown sugar. In order to properly thicken it, I use clear gel, about 2.5 cups of that. And I add that directly on top of my sugar. And then I need 8 cups of the liquid that I drained from the pears. I also add in cinnamon and clove and then finish off with a 1/2 cup of lemon juice. I mix this all together and get it to a almost boiling point. Then I pour the liquid over the diced pears and then bring the pears and the liquid to an almost boiling point. This is now my pear pie filling. Once that is done and my canner is empty, I will be able to ladle the pear pie filling into quart jars. I was able to get 6, and I am just going to water bath can these for 30 minutes. Now since I've had the canner going all day long and I needed to stay nearby, I decided to reorganize all of my jars. Not all jars can be used for canning, so I need to separate all of my mason jars from my other jars. And so that is what I did. I found all of lids for the not mason jars and matched every lid to as many jars as I possibly could. I ended up filling up 1 full tote of jars with lids. Now for the most part, I use these jars for my herbs or things that I just need to have a airtight seal and I don't want to use a mason jar for. That's what I have these other jars for. Now along with canning up all of the pears and organizing all of the jars, I also made 2 loaves of French bread today. And since I was making all of this pie filling anyway, I went ahead and made a pie. All right, I did a lot today. I got 8 quart jars of applesauce, only 2 did not seal. I got 3 jars, I believe 3, of pear juice. They all sealed. And I got 6 jars of apple pie filling. No, pear pie filling. It tastes like apple pie though. I also got, no, that was it, pie. I made a pie. It tasted like apple pie. That's why I have apple pie on the brain. Now in my last video, I did ask the question if anybody wanted to know where I have been, and I said that I would go into detail for the question. And I suppose now I shall go into detail because I don't really, like it's a lot of words, but I don't foresee it being a whole video on its own. So I do not believe that I have posted a video since April of this year, and it is now the last week of October. Now for the majority of this year, I have been limited to indoor activities. So where I've been is here at home. I really haven't gone anywhere, but I haven't been doing anything homestead worthy. Homesteady? I have barely done any gardening. I have tried to do some gardening. I did get some things planted. We grew 6 whole pumpkins and I think 4 whole watermelons, a few tomatoes. For this year, every time I planted something and it started to grow, the deer would come through. They would break my fence and they would eat everything that I planted. Everything. They ate the corn and the beans and the tomatoes and the peas. I mean, they ate everything except for the pumpkins. Not that there was a whole lot of pumpkins growing anyway. But this year I have physically been unable to do a lot of things. Now, I don't think that I have mentioned it a whole lot of times on my channel over the years, but I do have a very bad back, and as I am getting older, it is getting worse. Specifically, I have a degenerative disc disease, and I had spinal surgery a few years ago where the lower 5 of my lumbar vertebrae, all the way to the coccyx, have been fused together. So I am at a point now to where I cannot bend at a 90-degree angle. I cannot really lift over 25 pounds. I surely cannot build any garden beds or fix any garden fences. Shoveling is difficult, extremely. Really just doing anything has been extremely difficult for me this year. So I have been limited to indoor activities. And what I have found myself doing the most of is sewing. I started sewing around the time, right about 2 years ago, whenever I had to step away, really, from the garden, because it became too much for me physically. I have learned how to make my own clothing from nothing. I started with pre-made patterns, and I am now drafting my own patterns. Not that it is at all related to homesteading anything, but I will leave a link down below in the description that will take you directly to my sewing channel as if it is something that you are interested in. Now, since I have spent the majority of this year not gardening, I have strongly considered quitting, just quitting the whole homestead thing altogether. Of course, I have considered quitting many times over the last 6 years that I have been homesteading. And I have absolutely decided that I do not want to quit. I both love and strongly dislike homesteading, but I love it more than I dislike it. I do like growing my own food. I do not like that the deer take all of my food. I do like growing my own herbs. I do get to keep all of my herbs. The deer don't like the herbs. So I have gathered quite a bit of herbs. I do like that I can take ingredients and make meals from scratch, and then I can just throw some things in a jar. It's obviously more complicated than that, and then can it up, and then I have food that I prepared that does not have all of the heavily processed crap and poisons in the food. I mean, that right there is what pretty much drew me to homesteading and food preserving, was that I did not want to have all the heavy processed foods in my body and in my kids' bodies. But for me personally, whenever I eat heavily processed foods, it literally hurts my insides. So even though homesteading angers me more often than it brings me joy, and I think that that's just because mostly it's deer and vermin that take my food, really. And we're able to properly grow food, and then if I'm bringing it in and I'm constantly canning or freezing or preserving of some kind, I think there would be way more joy from the whole gardening and homesteading aspect. What I have figured that I need to do is make my garden more accessible to me as I am now. And it's unfortunate to say I'm only going to get worse, and that has been difficult for me to, I guess, deal with. So if I am going to continue gardening, and it doesn't seem that we are going to be in a position to get flat land, because all of our land, it's a hard steep. I need to make it more accessible for me, which means, unfortunately, I'm going to have to demolish the garden again and rebuild it again. I need to make the beds taller and further apart. What I mean by that is like the pathways in between the garden beds. I don't foresee me going to be able to do any in-ground spaces anymore or ever again. Just because getting down to the ground is hard enough, and then getting back up again is twice as hard. Now, I am still able to walk by myself, but I am finding it harder to do so, and I don't like saying that out loud, which is why I'm saying I need to space the garden beds wider, because I foresee me needing assistance when walking in the next couple of years. And this is not me being dramatic. This is me also being told by my doctors and specialists that I will likely not be walking by time I am 40 or shortly after, and I'm halfway to 40 almost. And the deterioration period to getting to there so far has not been fun, and I don't foresee it getting any easier. I also want to say that I've been recovering, but again, I don't think it's recovering if it's just getting worse. I guess I'm just figuring out how to, manage or deal with constant and daily pain. Although I'm doing that for 12 years, I just am at a new stage of constant and daily pain that is super affecting everything that I do, which is unfortunate. Now, in the 6 or 7 years, however long it's been since I have been posting content on this YouTube channel, I have only ever mentioned my pain maybe 4 or 5 times. It is not something that I like to focus on or even talk about. And it's very likely that you will not hear very much from me about it, unless it gets to a point again to where I either have to step away from what I'm doing from this YouTube channel again. Well, I was thinking there was an or, but I don't think that there is an or. So I am going to start posting on this channel again more frequently. At least once a week is what I'm going to try to do. The majority of the videos are going to be inside videos. I'm going to start bringing you back for my cooking content. I make 3 meals a day every single day, and that doesn't often include dessert, which I do at least, through the winter. I do a lot of baking in the fall and winter, and it's finally cold enough now that I can do baking again, because I can't bake in a South Carolina summer. So I am now drawing this weekend to a close. I still have around 70 pounds. Yeah, around 70 pounds of pears still left to go through. So the next few videos really are going to be pear based because I still have so many, and I have to find ways to use these pears. I would like to get more pear juice because it was not something that I was expecting my kids to like, and 2 out of 3 of them love the pear juice. So I need to dedicate a decent amount of the pears to just making juice and not having juice be the byproduct. So I got applesauce. No, I didn't. I got pear sauce, pear juice, and pear pie filling. 3 things. I am looking for some pear recipes. I do know that anything I can do with apples, I can do with pears. I really think I only have a couple of weeks to get these pears eaten, preserved, used, whatever. So we are now at the end of the video. If you made it all the way to the end, I want to thank you so very much for hanging out with me this whole weekend. I did a lot of things, and I stayed inside the whole weekend. And it's finally cooling down. I think it's like 54 degrees outside right now, which means it's cold enough to have an inside fire. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. If you're not already, consider subscribing. Like I said a few minutes ago, I am going to do my best to post at least once a week. And like I also said, prepare for a lot of cooking content, a lot of food content. That's what's going to be coming. Well, thank you again. I'm going to go ahead and end the video here, put some logs on the fire, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.